Hey there, it's Daniel. And what is this? You know what it is. It's Drummer Daily. I'm back after a long break. Or if you just found this podcast, it's not been a long break at all because it's just another in a long line of Drummer Daily podcasts. But I've been gone for a while. And what's interesting is that I kind of this is being recorded late in the month of January 2018, and I kind of took some time off earlier in the month of December, and then came back here and there early in the month, and then kind of disappeared again for a while. And I didn't plan on that happening, but I had some other projects, big projects that I was working on that I had deadlines for that I had to finish up. And there's only so much time in the day, and so I had to make a tough choice and decide what I was going to not do in order to get these other things done. And unfortunately for you and me, that meant that we couldn't spend time together in this podcast because I had to get those other things done. There just wasn't enough time in the day. So I had to make some compromises. Incidentally, that's what actually I wanted to talk about today on the podcast, and that is the concept of compromise as it goes to drumming and a drum career, but even maybe not drum career, just pursuing drumming, our craft as drummers, taking time to practice those kinds of things anyway. And that is that compromise is kind of a dirty word to some people, and I agree with it. I agree with the idea that compromise is a bad thing in certain contexts. So a lot of times when we mention compromise as it relates to art or music or playing music, people might think that it means something like I'm turning my back on what I stand for, or I'm compromising my morals or my beliefs in order to get ahead. And that's not what I'm talking about when it comes to compromise. I actually believe that you shouldn't compromise your morals and your beliefs, definitely, for any reason, definitely not for a music career or pursuit of art or anything like that. But I do believe that compromise is going to come up. I'm adjusting my microphone a little bit here so that hopefully you won't keep hearing fuzzy sounds when it hits my shirt. I hope that you'll understand that there are other situations where compromise is necessary, and you're making compromises every day, whether you like it or choose it or not, or aware of it. You're still doing it. And my example is this: did you practice drums today? And that's a simple yes or no question. If your answer is yes, then that meant that you decided to not do something else you could be doing in order to play drums. So however long you decided to practice today, practice on the drums, that amount of time was something that you could have been spending doing something else, but you made a compromise and you said, you know what, I'm not going to do that other thing. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to sacrifice doing something else in order to play the drums. And the exact opposite is true as well. So if you decided that you weren't going to play drums today, or maybe you didn't even think about it today, or you didn't have an opportunity to. And I understand that there might be a situation where maybe you don't have a drum kit set up at home or set up in a place where you can get to it. I understand that, so I'm not talking about that. But let's say you had the ability, if you really wanted to, you could have practiced today, but you decided to do something else. Well, that's a compromise as well. You compromised on the drumming, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I've had a lot of things that I've been working on that are not related to drumming as well, and I was aware of those things. And sometimes I could look at my situation and say, you know what, I'm a victim of this situation, and I just haven't had the time to play drums. And the reality is that I make choices, whether I made a choice today or I made a bigger choice earlier on to take on some projects and do some things, and now those things are coming up with deadlines and I have to do them. I might have made the decision to make that compromise a long time ago. But either way, I made a decision to make a compromise. And again, compromise is not a bad thing. Compromise is the way that things get done. It's the way that all decisions are made. I, in fact, believe that there are not many situations in life where you can make a decision and there's not a compromise being made somewhere. There's very little what you might consider complete like win-win situations when you really get down into the details of it. There's always exceptions, but for me as a drummer, and I want to equate this back to drumming from a career perspective. I had to make compromises, or sacrifices would be another word for that, along the way in order to do some of the things that I've been able to do. I have the Time Hop app on my phone where you can look back at old photos and videos you've posted back throughout the years. It shows you on this day what you did, a year ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And a lot of my Time Hop posts show me making drives from airports or being in different places out of town, not with my family. And it always reminds me of the sacrifices that we all made in order for me to do this drum career thing as far as touring goes. And the good thing about that is that the more that I can remind myself of those sacrifices, the more realistic I can be about what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do to become and stay a professional drummer. And incidentally, I'm making some decisions this year to change some things about all of that in order to realign with what my real priorities are in life. And so all of that to say, I want to encourage you that if you are pursuing becoming a professional drummer, or even if you're just trying to grow in your drumming as an artist or as a musician, you need to be aware that you're going to have to make compromises somewhere. Whether that means that you don't play video games as much as you used to, or it means that you're going to end up spending time away from your family, you need to be aware that those sacrifices and compromises are going to happen at some point for you. And you need to, as much as you can, if you don't decide ahead of time what you're going to do, at least prepare for the fact that those decisions will have to be made at a certain point. What you don't want to do, and I had this exact situation happen to me in my life at one point, was you don't want to work up to becoming a professional drummer and then work yourself into a situation where you finally have an opportunity to really do something that sounds like a dream gig or something that you've really been pursuing as a musician. But then at the same time, you've locked yourself into like some kind of crazy full-time job that you can't quit, or some other kind of life situation where it would be impossible to pursue that dream once you have the opportunity. Now, I'm not saying you avoid those other things, but but you need to think ahead and think, okay, if I make this decision in my life now, if I buy that really expensive car that has an expensive car payment, and I need to make a certain amount of money in order to pay that car payment now, how will this impact other areas of my life? And this might be kind of, adulting 101, but a lot of people don't think about that. Okay, it's that opportunity cost that comes along with every decision we make. So if I were to make a commitment to a really expensive car payment, for the next, 4 or 5 years, whatever people do now, that would mean that if I were to get the opportunity to take a touring gig 2 years from now, that would pay me enough to live on otherwise if I didn't have that car payment, that I have to plan for the fact that 2 years from now I'd be looking at either selling a car or turning that gig down. And I'm not saying you don't buy the car, but I'm just saying when you make those decisions now, you have to be forward thinking about how that's going to impact not only your own life and your family and those around you, but also your dreams and your aspirations for the future. Start thinking about those things as if they are going to happen in the future. And again, this is not some kind of like woo-woo, mystic advice. This is just saying you got to make practical plans and work towards your goals becoming a reality, and plan for those things. Because if you don't have plans for what's going to happen when your dreams become a reality, things are going to sneak up on you, and that is a recipe for disaster. Okay, so to recap, in the small ways, make compromises, or at least be aware that you are making compromises with your drumming, whether that means you are practicing more or you're practicing less. Understand that you are making those choices, and you're going to be making compromises all along the way. And then at a more macro, meta level, the big level, start understanding that big compromises are going to have to be made in some ways as you pursue your dreams as a professional drummer, and as you get more opportunities as a drummer. Those kinds of things are going to come up. So just start thinking about those things now, and you'll be much more equipped for that success that comes your way in the future as a drummer. Hey, I've got some exciting things to announce coming up really soon. as early as tomorrow, possibly. I'm not quite sure if I can do it yet, but it's one of the big projects I've been working on. But when I do get ready to announce it, you'll be the first to know. And the best part about what I'm going to announce is that it is 100% free. It's not a sales pitch. It's not anything else. It's just going to be a bunch of free stuff for you to help you in your drumming and your drum career. So I can't wait to announce that for you, hopefully really, really soon. But for now, thanks for joining me, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon on Drummer Daily. Bye for now.